What's up, kitten cats? Welcome back to my channel. So first and foremost, thank you so much for all of the love on my first video about my explant. You guys were so supportive, and I don't know why I ever expected anything less, because that is all you guys ever are. So just thank you so much. That really does mean the world to me, and I am happy to be back on YouTube. Don't quite know if the upload schedule is going to be yet because busy human, but I'm excited to be back here on YouTube, and I love you guys so much, and just posting a video and replying to you guys' comments and all of that good stuff just reminded me why I love doing YouTube and why I love making videos. It just gives me a deeper way to interact with you guys, so just thank you for being so responsive to it. That really does mean the world. So today I do want to get into more about my explant journey, kind of just more long form sit down talk to you guys about my experience. Let's just dive right in. This is going to be a long one, so go ahead, grab a snack, grab something to drink, grab some pillows and a blanket, like grab your favorite sweatshirt, get comfy, because we're gonna be here for a minute. Right, Luna? Yes, she says, I'm here. I'm here for the long haul. One of the most common questions I've gotten asked is, what made you think it was your implants and not something else? So if you guys watched the first video, which if you haven't, I highly suggest pausing this and going back to that original video and watching it, so you gotta get some backstory about what we're talking about here. Today we're talking about why I had my breast implants removed, because I believe they were making me ill for the past 2-ish years that I've had them. And to make a very, very long story short, I ruled out just about everything else I could think to rule out. You guys know I went through multiple diagnoses, misdiagnoses, went through multiple attempted treatments, attempted remedies. I'll go ahead and, I already had it in the last video, but I'll pop it up again here because we want to be thorough in this video. I had a lot of very strange symptoms that just kept piling on and on and on and on. And no matter what I would do, no matter what I tried, no matter what therapy I tried, nothing would help it, and things would just keep getting worse. So I'll pop my symptoms up, and I'll pop up all of the treatment methods that I tried and everything that I tried. And all of this, first of all of the symptoms that I mentioned, they're not just things that were, you know, made up in my head. These are things that I expressed to a medical professional and had confirmed. And all of the treatments that I tried were not just things that I woke up one day and was like, hey, let's try T3. No. But to make a long story short, I tried a lot of different things. I tried a lot, and nothing worked. Nothing helped. I just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I was actually talking to my friend Ari about this at the gym today, and I was just like, with all of that, just something never felt right. Something in my gut did not feel right. Did not feel like that's what it was. But I was like, I trust these professionals. I'm going to do what they say, and we're going to see if it helps. Like, I just put my trust in them, and I don't regret that for a minute. It was all a learning experience. It's all been a journey. But it was never what it was. So back in the spring, I started seeing a very intelligent, very wonderful doctor in Pickerington, Ohio, named Dr. Eric Serrano. He's an amazing, amazing physician, and I think that he really is the standard of what physicians should be. He listened to me. He was very thorough with me. Literally, our first appointment was probably about 2 hours long, which for a doctor, that is very, very rare for them to sit there and talk to you for 2 hours. And I just told him everything. And so he started trying to piece together things and trying to fix things. And we're talking about one of the smartest medical professionals, like, in my opinion, in the world. He has saved kids that are not supposed to be alive today that are now living, and they're still here. Like, he's amazing at what he does. He's also very popular within the bodybuilding community for his work with competitors. But we started piecing things together when I first went in to see him. He ran blood work. He tested me for a gene SNP that I do have. I have an MTHFR gene SNP, which is a gene that is responsible for a lot of your body's ability to detoxify. I do have one of the SNPs that makes my body's ability to detoxify a little bit less. I don't know to what degree exactly, but I do know that that's a gene SNP that I have. He also tested me for a lot of food intolerances, which I turned out to have over 15, which I do think was induced by having my implants. We tried a lot of different things. My blood work came back great, but he's like, okay, something's still not right here. Like, let's try this medicine. Let's try this medicine. He would at least acknowledge that something was wrong. But no matter what we tried multiple different things. Nothing would work, and things would just keep getting worse. And I would just keep feeling worse. So it was an appointment, I think it was the beginning of July. It was right before I made my consult with the surgeon that did my explant. And this was why I waited to make the appointment with my surgeon for my explant, because I wanted to talk to Dr. Serrano about it. But long story short, I had gotten really fed up, and I had either gotten a message from one of you guys, a comment, or had seen somebody else's story about breast implant illness. You know, so one of you guys either said like, hey, have you heard of this? Or I saw somebody else posting about it, and it had been in my ear for over a year. People had been messaging me about this for over a year. I think the first message that I got about it was in like I think the first message that I got about it was in like the summer of 2017. Just someone messaging me like, hey, have you heard of breast implant illness? And I just passed it off. I did not believe it was a thing. So if you're one of those people out there that's watching this video and you don't believe it's a possibility, I totally know how you feel. I was there for a very long time, and I can tell you on the other side, it is a very real thing. I think it's hard to call it one specific illness just because there are a lot of broad symptoms and everyone's symptoms are somewhat different. There's a lot of common themes with women and their symptoms, but different women get different symptoms. So it's really, really hard to put it under this umbrella of one illness. But I do think that it is very, very possible to have very serious health complications from your breast implants that make you feel very, very ill. So that's just a whole nother tangent. But anyway, so I got a message or I saw something or whatever about breast implant illness. And at that point, I was at the very, very end of my rope and I was like, screw it. I'm going to join the Facebook group. I'm going to see what all this is about. Because at first I thought it was one of those things where like, because I looked on the website beforehand when I didn't think it was a thing. And I was like, these symptoms are way too broad for it to be anything classifiable. Like, I don't think this is what it is. Like, I don't think this is possible. And I went in the Facebook group. I scrolled for hours. And hours and hours and hours and hours. I think I cried the first time I scrolled in there because I finally felt validated. I finally felt like there were other people out there that understood what I was going through and had actually seen healing. And it was a very surreal moment for me. Like, it was just like somebody knocked the wind out of me. So after that, I started talking to Grant about it, and he was like, well, next time we go see Serrano, you need to ask him about it. And I was like, okay. First of all, I was at a very low point when I went to see Dr. Serrano in July. And then this appointment in July was right before I made the appointment for my consult. It was either late June or early July because my consult was in mid-July, but for my surgery. But I went in to see Dr. Serrano and sitting in the waiting room the whole time, like getting all my vitals taken, everything. Like, I was trying to hold it together so hard the whole time. And then as soon as he walked in, I just started bawling. And props to Serrano for being able to handle crying patients, because I don't know if that's something I could do, but he was so empathetic. He was just like, tell me what's wrong. Like, I am here to help you. Seriously, he's freaking amazing doctor, and I'm so thankful to have him. We talked about everything. We talked about, you know, the treatments that we'd been trying. And then I just looked at him and I go, this is going to sound crazy, but do you think that any of this could be related to my breast implants? And he says, I can't give you a definitive yes or no because I don't know, but I have had patients, multiple patients that have had them taken out and had a lot of their symptoms clear up. So I do think it's at least a possibility. And at that point, that for me was like eviction notice for the fake boobs. I was like, okay, done. It's over. They're gone. Like, we're getting them out as soon as we can. So yeah, I was tired all the time. I was sluggish all the time. I was constantly inflamed and just got more and more inflamed. I could not lose weight for the life of me. I just kept gaining weight no matter what I did. I was depressed all the time. I was developing food intolerances. My psoriasis was getting worse. I smelled foul all the time. I literally had the worst body odor. Like, if you can imagine metallic soup, that's what I smelled like, particularly when I would sweat. It was absolutely vile. I was dehydrated all the time. My skin was really dry. My hair was really dry. It was a bad time. So I ruled out a lot of other options. So anybody that has implants put in their body, implants are a foreign object, just like an IUD is a foreign object, just like some people reject things like ankle plates that they have put in. There's problems with various medical devices and accounts of people's bodies trying to reject them, even things as small as piercings. And that is part of why the capsule forms. If you have implants, you have capsules. That is a very normal response. That is part of what keeps you safe. It's your body's defense mechanism. So if you are squeamish, I recommend skipping forward by about 5 or 10 seconds because I am going to pop a picture of my implants with their capsules on the screen here right now. So those are my implants with their capsule around them. The capsule is a form of scar tissue. It is protective. It is what protects it's your body's defense mechanism against the implant. It's your body's way of saying like, hey, we have a foreign invader in here. We need to protect ourselves from it. We're going to form a capsule. We're going to form the scar tissue around this foreign object. So this immune reaction just starts happening. And in my case, it never stopped happening. I do believe the fact that I already had an autoimmune condition. I have psoriasis. It's mostly restricted to my scalp and then sometimes on my eyelids if it's really, really bad. But it had been first of all, it had been in remission for years until I got implants, which I find really, really interesting. I do think the fact that I had a pre-existing autoimmune condition was a slight contraindication for me getting breast implants, aka I probably shouldn't have gotten them. And that was something that I had no idea about. Most surgeons don't tell you about that. But I do believe that a lot of it comes from a strong immune reaction. When you have a constant immune reaction, you're going to have chronic inflammation. And there's a reason that medical professionals say that chronic inflammation is a breeding ground for disease. And when you're chronically inflamed, the rest of your systems don't necessarily work properly. Also, when you think about it, your implants are sitting on top of some of your most vital organs, like your heart and your lungs and your thymus, which produces T cells, which are immune cells. It's also sitting on top of a lot of your lymphatic vessels, which would explain why my lymphatic system was not functioning properly. So a lot of things. Also, I believe that part of the reason why I had a hard time breathing, if you listen to my podcast when I would do solo episodes, you might not know this, but some of you picked up on it. You were like, you sound really, really nervous or something like that. Like something's just off with the way you sound. And when I would record podcasts by myself, I would have to stop every 2 minutes, every 2-3 minutes, and take like a bajillion deep breaths. I would just have to sit there like and breathe because I could not catch my breath. And part of that is because my capsules, and this is very common, my capsules had actually attached to my rib cage. So your rib cage is, I think we think about our ribs like just being the things that wrap around here, but your rib cage is all up in here. So my capsules had actually attached to my rib cage, which is where a lot of your breathing muscles are, is in your rib cage or around or near your rib cage. So I think that was part of why I was having such a hard time breathing. Implants also have some not so great things inside of them, and this is something that they don't tell you as well. They just tell you it's silicone. That's it. First of all, there are multiple different molecular weights of silicone inside of your implants, which can cause a problem if they are leaking or if there is any kind of leak in there in terms of excreting them. Implants are manufactured with a lot of different things, ranging from heavy metals to known carcinogens to biotoxins to neurotoxins, lots of bad things. Those don't just fall out at the end. There's still amounts of it left. I personally don't know the amounts that are left in your implants when they are manufactured. I don't know. I have no way of knowing, but based on what I've read, that they do not just go away. Another thing, implants can do what is called a micro leak or even just a slow leak without a rupture. So just because you haven't had a rupture doesn't mean you're not going to have problems. First of all, you could have a problem from the immune reaction. Second of all, you could have a problem from a micro leak or a slow leak. So I think now would be a good time to pop up some of the studies that I'm talking about here on the screen. I'll go ahead and keep the clips rolling relatively quickly just to not make this video any longer than it's already going to be, but I recommend pausing and reading each snippet through, and I'll see you in a second. There's a lot of opportunity for things to go wrong with your implants. And again, I don't think this will happen to every single woman that has implants. I think that is equally as ignorant to say as saying it's not possible for anyone to have a problem with their implants. You know what I mean? I don't like absolutes in either direction. Unless we have solid proof that it will happen to everyone, I don't think we can say that, which is another thing. There is not enough research on either side. There is not enough research on the actual safety of silicone breast implants. There's not. Silicone was taken off the market until 2006, and when it was reintroduced, the grounds that it was reintroduced on were not the greatest. The studies were not long enough. Studies on breast implants need to be at least 10 years in length. Silicone shell, which saline implants do have a silicone shell as well, so you can still experience silicone-related problems with saline implants. Saline implants have their own set of problems, like the growth of black mold within the implant, lots of different things. But the silicone shell starts to degrade at, I believe, around 7 to 10 years after they've been in your body. So that's why we need studies that are longer, so we can see what happens when these things are in your body longer. And some women react very quickly, like me. Some women don't react until years and years and years down the line. Different bodies have different reactions. That's just physiology. Like, we react differently to things. And some women just have more robust systems that can break down things that are in their body, like bad stuff that's in their body. That's just the way it is. So the studies weren't long enough. There were also multiple reports of different companies that would run studies on their implants, and then when women would start to express that they were having medical issues, they would be thrown out of the studies, which skews the data in favor of the implant companies, which is why I highly recommend, when you're trying to find studies on anything, be very wary of the financial interests of people conducting the study. So for example, if an implant company conducts a study, they have a financially vested interest in the outcome of that research. So there's a possibility. Humans are humans. We want to believe everyone is good and moral and just, but that's not always the case. there's a possibility that they will try and sway the research to say, hey, my product is good, my product is superior, my product is safe. And like I just said, there were reports of women that were like, hey, I got thrown out of this study because I started having problems, which again, will change the data, which is highly problematic in and of itself. We need to be honest in science, and it's really, really sad that we are not always. But a lot of potential for things to go wrong. There have also been reports from implant companies, like former employees of implant companies, and just investigations into implant companies, revealing that these companies knew fully well that there were toxic properties or just negative properties of these implants, and those records were hidden from the FDA until they were found, obviously. But nothing has been done about that, which is weird. I digress. There's just been a lack of sufficient research for their safety, lack of sufficient research on women that have problems with them. A lot of the things that I cited were by Dr. Arthur Brower, who has done a lot of research on silicone toxicity. So I think if we can get more people like him that are willing to research this and willing to be honest with people and willing to be like, hey, there's a possibility for a problem, like let's monitor these people and see what's happening, then we can get a more definitive answer. Because right now there really is not a definitive answer. There is a lot of anecdote and there are studies on silicone toxicity, but as far as having a better method of diagnosis, or just having a better patient awareness. Like when I went into my plastic surgeon to have them put in, none of this was expressed to me. Nobody warns people about this. Like I even had people in my DMs after I was like, hey, I'm gonna have the surgery done. People that are biomaterials engineers, aka people that work with these substances as part of their job, that are experienced in this, saying, yeah, you are correct. These things are not safe for everyone. I'll try and pop some of the screenshots of that up on the screen here. But there's like a disconnect. There's people that know that there's problems with implants and that they're not necessarily entirely safe for everyone, but they're still very much so legal, and they're still very much so not, there's lack of transparency with the patient of saying, hey, this could happen to you. I think if we could even just have that conversation, you know, if you're a plastic surgeon and you're watching this video, I highly encourage you to just take this video and show it to all of your implant patients. Be like, hey, this is what could happen to you. Might not, but there's a chance that it might. Because I know that if I had known this was like a 0.01% chance of happening to me, I would have been like, no, I don't think it's a good idea. Yeah. So there is research out there that says that this might not be a good thing. So I do think there just needs to be more transparency and more research regarding implants, their safety, what could happen, what's not guaranteed to happen, but what could happen. Let's talk about the actual explant itself. First and foremost, I want to emphasize the importance of having your implants taken out the correct way.